All right. Hi, and welcome to the Canine Translators podcast. This podcast is dog trainers talking about dog natural training and all things dog behavior. We are your hosts, Tara Sturmer
and Laura McClure, head behavior trainers at Canine Working Mind. We are located in Austin, Texas.
Our goal in this podcast is to help our species understand canine communication and their behaviors.
If you have any questions, concerns, or ideas about the future podcasts, please email us at info@caninetranslators.com. That's info at the letter K, the number 9, translators.com.
Y'all, I know we have some wonderful listeners, and we are super, super excited to have Zak George on as a guest today. And
Bree.
Yeah.
Okay. Bree from behind the scenes.
It's always behind the scenes. You never really get to see her. So we're excited that we have you on today. So basically what we're talking about today is the dog training methods, the comparison between the two. I know, Zak, I've been watching your feeds and your wonderful attention that's brought to it. So first, I want to get it out there. Some people may not have heard of you. I'm not sure how, but some people may have not heard of you. So I'd like you to just introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm Zak George. I've been training dogs for about 18 years. I used to do dog sports. That's where I come from. I've had a couple of TV shows over the years, one on Animal Planet called Superfetch, one on the BBC called Who Let the Dogs Out, which was basically American Idol for young British dog trainers, if you can imagine. Fantastic format, loved it. Written a couple of books on dog training. And yeah, YouTube is kind of what I've been doing consistently over that entire time. That's my real passion. My favorite teaching tool is social media and YouTube and things like that. That's the short introduction.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how far of a reach you can get nowadays with social media. It's changed. I mean, I've been doing this for 37 years, and it's really, you got a great reach now because of social media.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks. 37 years. You don't look 37. How have you been doing this?
That's so nice of you.
You're amazing. See, he knows. He knows how to talk. Yes. She always tells me I'm old. So, but yeah, I've been doing it for a while. But yeah, so, you know, in the 37 years that I've been doing this, I've never had to use any physical pain.
No force training at all.
And I work highly aggressive canines. So that's something that I really want to bring up because you brought to light I call him the 15-second TikTok trainer personality because I refuse to say his name, but we will because, you know, we need people to understand that it's not acceptable. So I didn't even know he was coming to Austin until right in the middle of my seminar on Saturday. I was giving a seminar to people, and somebody had said, "Hey, did you know that he's coming to Austin?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And so they told me, and then I saw your video feed, and I went, "Oh no, we are not doing anything else but standing out there and trying to educate people because it was just so awful." So first, I mean, from one positive dog trainer to the next, thank you for all of the positive work that you do and how much light you're bringing to this cruelty.
Yeah. The fact that it's not needed.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Although it takes everyone, as you know. I mean, you know, our voices don't mean anything unless people echo that. And, you know, it really is a community-wide effort that we haven't really seen anything like in some time. So it's pretty amazing. So you've been doing this 37 years and you didn't even start with punishment. I'm still on that because you go back 37 years. Positive reinforcement. What?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I was kind of pushed out a lot, obviously. A lot of people did not. The person that I mentored with, I came from New York, and the person that I mentored with was very big on the Roddy hang back then in those days, where you pretty much what he's doing right now. Hanging them and letting them pass out, and then looking like God, basically, is what he described it as. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. I refuse to. And yeah, of course, being a woman in this field already was a bad thing 37 years ago. But being a woman who was like, I am not threatening or physically punching a dog, That was really bad back then. Yeah. But yeah.
Good for you for being a trailblazer there. Cause I mean, I can only imagine what the climate was like then. Cause even 18 years ago when I entered, it was like positive reinforcement was just then becoming the thing, I feel like. And
Yeah.
And everybody had to follow the, let's choke a dog out
Yeah.
or roll a dog or
Pin them to the ground or anything like that. And we don't do any of that stuff
Yeah.
here. And we do deal with behavioral and aggressive dogs that want to literally go and attack people or other dogs, but we don't ever use any of those methods at all.
right.
yeah, clearly.
So-
That's amazing.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
fact that you just heard about this on Saturday, I mean, you guys were out, you got right out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Oh yeah. We don't waste any time.
So, that's the thing, we always laugh because our listeners know I'm from New York, so I'm pretty blunt. And I deal with a lot of dogs that will hurt people. So, I try not to I'm not as PC as most.
No, she's not.
Good for you. Yeah. We need that. We need more of that.
Yeah. She's definitely not.
But the second that I heard that he was going to be here, I was like, you know what? That's not in my city.
Yeah.
No, it can't happen here. And it did, and it was unfortunate. But I think the more we have knowledge about this, oh my God, he's so cute. The more
Off the couch. I'm like,
the more we have knowledge about this out there, I think the more people understand it won't be okay. I think right now, because it's been such a big part of dog training, as you said, 18 years ago when you came in, 37 years ago when I came in, I think because it's been such a big part of dog training for all of these years, everybody thinks it's just normal to physically harm dogs.
Yeah, use that kind of training method.
1000%. It's very normalized. And yeah, I mean, we see the rise of shock collars and things like that. That's just completely normalized now. And it's just a primitive way to communicate with dogs. And I don't blame the public as much as I blame, so-called professionals out there recommending these methods. We have to differentiate, in my view anyway, between everyday people who are just trying to look for answers. We can't expect everyone to be behavior experts. And so that's really been the target of my campaign recently, our campaign, I should say, all of our campaigns, is to really raise awareness around, guys, we need to stop normalizing physical punishments as dog training because they only mask issues. They never address underlying causes, as you well know, and they're just not needed. Of course, I think a lot of the confusion comes in with management, which I'm curious to hear about you guys. Like, I've heard some behaviorists will use things like martingales and things like that as management tools for really extreme dogs that are really hard to control. I'm curious, I don't know if we should talk about that now, but how do you handle dogs that are so physically strong that you still need some physical control to keep yourself safe?
So we do use a chain martingale. We make sure that it's fit so the dog doesn't get pinched by the chain. Because if it's inaccurately fit, it'll actually bite. So I won't use a chain martingale if it's not fitted properly. We sometimes have to combine chain martingales because the dogs that we see are seriously intense. So sometimes we have to combine the chain martingales. We might combine that chain martingale with a harness and have 2 leashes on it. So, we tell people it's like riding a horse, you'll have reins. But eventually we want to pretty much have a dog that wants to stay next to their owner. That's my end goal is that a dog that wants to stay with the owner, wants to work with the owner, wants to come back to
is motivated for them instead of I'm only listening because of this tool, because of this shock collar or prong collar, but I don't actually really want to. I just don't want to feel any more pain.
Right. We don't even allow prong collars and shock collars on our property.
No.
Yeah, I was the same way when I was doing classes and things like that. Yep. Same thing.
So we use martingales. If it's a true fear case, we won't use a chain martingale because the sound sometimes can be a little too much for them. So we'll use a cloth martingale, but we do couple it with a harness. Sometimes if we had a Borbolus Mastiff that came in that wanted to eat people. And that one, because he was 170-ish pounds. We had to duel it with a general leader because we had to have some type of control on the front end of the dog.
I see. What can I ask you another question too? I know you guys had me on here, but I'm so curious. So like in terms of forward aggressing dogs, as people like to call them, versus fear reactive dogs, where they're trying to increase distance, do you have a sense as a ratio from your clientele, like what percentage are just going for you versus trying to create distance?
Like
So now what
90s plus. Yeah.
What we deal with mostly are a lot of trainers and veterinarians actually send their clients to us because they're going forward. They're not going back.
Mhm.
A good majority of the cases that I see are dogs that don't have to be provoked.
Yeah. They're
Right.
just there and then suddenly they're going.
Yeah, so we do see a lot of dogs that go forward.
It's probably about 95% of
yeah.
our clientele is I'm going to go forward, I'm going to attack it. It's
Yeah, and
we don't have a lot of we see some defensive of I want to just get away. Our fear cases are fewer than our defensive cases.
Okay.
Wow, so y'all are the people.
Yeah. We
are the ones that are going to really.
It's not like
Yeah.
an accident that you get that.
Yeah.
ratio.
Yeah. I mean, we do everything from like puppies, obedience, basic stuff. We're starting our own therapy program here and all that kind of stuff. But a majority of what we do is behavior and aggression.
That's amazing. That's so important.
Yeah, and so even with 90+% of that, you still don't need to use premeditated aversives on these dogs because they
No.
never address it.
No.
Right, and that's why I was out there on Sunday, and that's why we always, on our podcast, we're always saying, this glorified 15-second TikTok trainer who's going out there and making himself look wonderful. He's not. He's damaging the dogs, and he's not fixing the triggers.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of what we try to educate people on, is that it's literally a Band-Aid. Like if I broke my bone, I went to the emergency room, they're not going to fix it. They're going to tell me to go through orthopedic.
Yeah.
So he's the urgent care, and then somebody else has to do all the work because they're not fixing any of the problems.
Yeah, although he's probably not competent at the urgent care either, if we're being completely honest here.
I know. I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
I'm
It's like, because we agree, and I think you'll agree, that you can use an aversive method in an emergency situation where if you got to save the dog's life or is about to do something and you have to grab the dog that puts them in pain. Obviously that's a requirement, but that's not something you bake in to your training plan.
Right. No.
So that's the big problem with him, is he's literally triggering these emergencies out of these dogs only to then shut them down. And anyway, I know I'm pretty required, but
almost, I mean, I guess not worse, but equally bad to me is that he really doesn't seem to understand that it's not necessary. Like I almost find it more chilling when I see trainers that are just genuinely like, this has to be done.
Yes.
With dogs versus these macho guys that are just like, I prefer to dominate a dog. At least they're like admitting their preference,
Yeah.
Right.
And that's definitely one of our things is we don't like you have to be the dominant, or we don't even tell our clients like the alpha thing is not something we bring into our vocabulary, where our whole thing is you need to protect your dog. So you need to be their protector. So our whole slogan is you protect first.
Right.
You don't need to be this alpha personality that has been out there for years.
Yeah, good for y'all. I mean, we just wish we could make copies of you. That would be great.
Well, hopefully we are, which we have an internship program, and we try to educate as many people as possible. We have a lot of trainers that come to our seminars on aggression because we have so much aggression that comes to us. But yeah, so I don't want to talk about us because the listeners know about us.
Sure.
We can talk about you.
Fair enough. Yes.
But it really does. You don't have to use aversive techniques, and now you've dealt with aggression as well.
It's not my specialty, but yes, you can't help but deal with aggression over the years. I had a series with a German Shepherd dog that I filmed not too long ago, named Moira, who had an issue with livestock animals and had made some kills there, and we really focused on trying to make her understand that's not ideal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so all right, so that's the big debate too.
Yeah.
Nowadays is predatory aggression, right? So a lot of people are going to dub that predatory aggression, but it might not be predatory aggression.
Yeah.
I mean, sure. Yeah. Context specific always matters.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
never actually saw her kill an animal. We just were
Yeah.
told about it afterwards.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to get people to understand. There's different things that will relate to aggression. There are, for us, 16 different types that we see. So, we try to say, don't just say your dog's aggressive. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. There's more than just dog aggression or people aggression. Like, why? What is the trigger? Is it out of excitement? Are they being controlling? Like, is it all frustration based? So we have to break that down.
Right.
Yeah. Public will use that term extremely loosely, as you know.
Yes.
I mean, there's dogs jumping on people and all happy when people come over, and they'll use that as a times.
Puppy biting. We get aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
My dog's getting aggressive because it's a puppy, and
A lot of people that come to us and go, my puppy is aggressive, and I'm like, no, your puppy is puppy and it's learning.
that's called puppy.
So I got a question for you. I got a couple of questions directed specifically at positive aversive. Okay. So from your view, for what you've been doing, right? Can you explain to us in your terms what the fundamental difference is between aversive dog training and positive reinforcement?
Well, one addresses the holistic experience of the dog. One addresses underlying causes, and the other is simply a mask that seems to be a product of frustration and tradition, that being aversive methods. I mean, that would, positive reinforcement is really about acknowledging what we like in our dogs, obviously, and aversive are simply to suppress behavior. And whenever we suppress, we can expect side effects.
Yeah.
Right. And so the side effects are what we deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
A lot of people, we have had cases, one case stands out where we had a client, the dog was attacking her, and the husband was like, just rush the dog and tell him no. She got bit real bad, obviously, because there was a reason why the dog was rushing her, and he knew that she was going to not be able to follow through on that threat that had been made by somebody else.
Yeah, they learn context very, very quickly. Who's going to punish how, basically. It sounds like. With your cases, do you find that because we know one of the side effects to using aversive methods on dogs is increased aggression, as you just alluded to.
Yes.
What percentage of the 90% of your forward aggressing dogs do you think were made worse by aversive methods, or is that tough to
No, it's actually not tough because we're so obsessive on our research.
Yeah, and it's actually a research study that we're in the middle of, is with using the prong and shock collars, and how many dogs that had a bite history before those versus how many of them had it afterwards or had more severe bites after using those techniques. And so that's actually a research study that we're in the middle of, so that we can have some actual, here are the facts, numbers, because a lot of people don't listen to just us talking about it. They are like, prove it to me. Right. And so we're building the proof.
Right. And we see, thousands of people.
And a lot of them come from other trainers that use those methods.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good feedback. Good feedback. Sorry. I have so many questions for you as you ask them to me.
We are back and forth. We're pretty laid back. We our podcast is not scripted or anything. We just kind of talk back and forth. That's all we do.
That's it. So yeah, but it's totally cool. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, honestly, we do, because of the amount of aggression that I see, we try to tell people all the time, when you come in, we do a full consultation, which is, needed. And unfortunately, when you have a quick trainer, they don't know anything about that dog. Yeah. They don't know that dog, right? They may ask, has the dog bitten?
Yeah. A few questions.
But not, why did the dog bite? How many times did the dog bite? How hard was that bite? Did it show any inhibition? And what was the trigger of the bite?
Where was the bite?
So, when you have the aversive training, as you well know, you have the aversive training, you go in, and these guys, it's a one size fit all. I'm going to put a leash on the dog and I'm going to fight with it, and I'm going to teach it learned helplessness with me.
Yeah.
Right. So what's your thoughts about learned helplessness?
Well, Exactly.
what he's doing.
Yeah, fight, flight, and freeze, right? And so they're calling the freeze mechanism, which I'm interpreting as learned helplessness in this case, as success.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing more than, I mean, you gave the example of the Band-Aid on a broken bone. Another example, a way to put it to the public is imagine your siding is rotting off your house and you paint it and say, I fixed it. You know,
Yeah.
no, you need to now reverse that conditioned emotional response. So we need to put new thing up, and we have to reverse that and help our dogs understand what's actually going on, as you're clearly stating so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So shock collars, prong collars, how now we see a ton of shock collars, unfortunately, and prong collars, they're just
All
flying
over the
off
place.
shelves. And you know, I have written to Petco and PetSmart, and Petco is actually not using selling shock collars anymore, which I'm thrilled about. But you know, there's so many quick pop-up shock collar trainers, and people think that it's going to be a quick fix. So your experience, have you experienced rehabbing or behavior mod on any shock collars?
You know, I actually probably I don't really ask clients about that so much when I've taken dogs and
Asking if you have used those and experienced
have I
behavior modification, I think.
I haven't used them.
No. I was asking if if you've ever had a client that used
I wanted to answer the wrong question and be like, oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I haven't, it's not something I delve so much into when I'm working with them. Usually I just deal with it unless there's a reason to ask. And I can't think of an example. So I don't think I have a good answer for you on that, but
I have because Zach used to teach group classes, earlier in our relationship. And I've seen, people come in with usually prongs. No, I don't think any.
No, they wouldn't with prongs very often because I don't have people in on the first day. And then I make that clear.
Like, here's the flat collars that we keep on standby. You need to switch that out, or harness. Some just in our bag. You know?
Yeah, we definitely have that where it's just like, nope, that's not what you're using here. Have something else.
Yeah, we have it in all of our reminder emails too. Don't show up on the property because one, it's going to take a little bit to lecture you about the prong collar.
Yeah, you're going to take that off right now, and here's why.
And I'm going to not ever use it. Yeah. So yeah, we see a lot of people now where we're seeing a lot of control issues, control aggression, and actually learned retaliation from the dogs because they're feeling the pain. And they don't know what's shocking them. And one of our analogies is, you know, if I put a shock on me and I went like 2 miles over the speed limit because I drive fast, and my wife kept shocking me.
Right.
I never want to drive it.
Yeah. Or especially with her.
You know, but we're seeing a lot of dogs that are actually developing learned retaliation where they start to, if you even show any of the slightest emotional change into anger, they will go after you. And it's learned retaliation from the shock collars.
Yeah.
A lot of sense because of the stress response that aversive methods like that trigger. And, you know, plus it inhibits learning, you know, just the cortisol, the adrenaline, all of that.
Right.
Function is decreased with aversive methods. It's the exact opposite of what dog trainers should be doing. We shouldn't be inhibiting learning.
Right. Exactly. And I'm so stoked that we have somebody that is as public as you are. That's a positive trainer because it's so needed. It is so needed. And you know, so can you we have a lot of people that say you know, you use positive techniques, but you know, you might not deal with real aggression
or behavioral issues even.
You know, 95% of the people that come to see our seminars or our videos go, how did you handle that dog? And I'm like, I didn't do any force. So have you had people that say to you, well, you don't know because you don't deal with aggression?
Or because you're a positive trainer.
And how do you deal with that?
Oh yeah. So like I mean, we've probably had 10 comments on my YouTube channel since we started this podcast of people saying exactly that. Oh, you don't work with dog because the public has it in their head. I need to see that dog really being aggressive to you. I need to see the problem behavior to even And so it looks so much different than they're expecting, because the idea is to de-escalate, not escalate a dog.
Yeah.
So primary objective number one, when I do have a dog with a bite history, is to de-escalate them, get them comfortable with me, and try to then get in their head so I can actually address the underlying cause rather than rather than sitting there trying to punish the symptom. And this is a very frustrating, difficult thing to explain to the public, because they're so conditioned from dog whisperer garbage over the years.
Yeah. Same. We see the same thing. And I think for us, when we have dogs that come in for our consultations and even some of our sessions, I mean, if it's an aggressive dog that is going to come forward at us, I mean, no, I'm not going to just grab your leash and touch your dog and do anything, like, because then I am going to be provoking something, and I'm sorry, but that's not what I'm going for.
Right.
So it might not be that I actually touch your dog for a couple sessions, because for me, it's more about the owners needing to be able to learn how to do the thing with their dog. So me just grabbing the leash and doing something, one, could put us in danger and not help the dog. But two, how does that help the owner? They're the ones that have to go home with that dog.
Right.
Yeah, precisely. I know.
If you guys were aware of this or saw this or not, but in one of the earlier protests a couple of months ago, I think in New York, one of the dog daddy protests, our friend Lauren from Sit Stay Stella was out there, and she spoke to Augusto at a meetup after his conference and on camera. And he said, "How would you handle a dog like this?" or something to that effect. And she said to him, "I wouldn't touch an aggressive dog," and proceeded to explain why, like you just did, that it's possible to train an aggressive dog without like terrifying them and pulling them towards you. But the way that statement was taken out of context,
well, he could,
he wouldn't touch an aggressive dog. I mean, it's what they want to hear, because it makes the argument so much easier. And so,
And it really does on their side, because, aggression is going to be aggressive. So any comment that they're going to throw is going to be aggressive anyway. If they're gonna be cruel to a dog, they're going to be cruel behind their keyboard. I think that's a general rule.
We've seen that with some of our videos, because we did a video about prong collars, and the amount of people that came on and like personally was bashing us. And it was literally like, okay, people that are prong collar seem to be aggressive versus the people that are not.
That's the way it is, right? So we don't handle, I'm sorry,
I feel like there's this, at least with everyday people who are working with their dogs too. One thing that I think Zach and I encounter a lot is this element of deconstruction when you're trying to tell someone like what you've been doing with this dog that you really genuinely love might not have been the best choice, might not be the best thing for them. It's not an easy conclusion to come to as a guardian of a pet that you love, right? Because it's like you have to all this backlog of mistakes, and you have to publicly have done the wrong thing. How can I fix it? And so some of those people who are aggressive are like having this internal struggle too that is hard to get over. And so we try to help them with that to the best of our ability.
Well, we always tell people that if somebody comes in, a lot of our clients sit across from us. The first initial meet that I had is a consult where we ask a whole history, and a lot of people are like, did I do this to my dog? And even if I know it was the aversive training, I'm like, no, you just didn't speak dog yet.
You didn't know.
And that is something that that's why we call it our podcast the Canine Translators. People aren't born with the knowledge to speak dog. They have to be taught that language. But I think the more we get the positive out there, the more they'll learn that it is possible, right?
That's another option. You don't have to go straight to the aversive, or I need to get the quick fix, because if there is a behavioral thing, there is no quick fix. You can't fix that dog in one training. It's not going to happen.
Than you could for a person. The whole issue of why professionals, in quotes, are still using these outdated methods is something we talk a lot about. And like, because you had mentioned, sometimes they're aggressive people, or sometimes they just have a different worldview. And we've come with the aid of like the Zazie Todd study that was really good. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
That was
I'll think of the title in a second.
It's such a multifaceted issue. There's so many, and it's like we have to, just like other social issues in our society, we have to, like, some people are going to use those aversive methods because grandpa taught them to do it that way, and that's other people are going to do it because of toxic masculinity. Other people, like, I'm going to be the tough guy here. Other people are going to do it just because of different worldviews. Others are ignorant who just don't know, and if they have the scientific. And that's kind of what you're alluding to right now.
Yeah.
So from where we sit, with a YouTube channel with all walks of life that leave comments, that give us feedback, it's so clear that we have to disassemble each one of those facets to have any hope of actually changing it. And it's a daunting task. Make no mistake about that. For a lot of reasons.
Yeah. And I do think I think a lot more positive trainers, because I think part of our problem as positive trainers is we're so focused on the dog that we're not videoing like the explosive, aggressive behaviors that we're seeing when I first see them. I'm not going to whip out a camera and go, hey, time out.
Let me get this so I can record what I do.
How aggressive this dog is, and then video the process. I think because positive trainers are focused on not arousing them to the point of an escalation, we don't get those type of reactions on the initial.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't see the process that we do because we're not like some of these other people that are going for the subscribers and the likes and the money.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and good for you for, maintaining your ethics.
It's definitely something we stand by.
I think I see it on yours because I don't see anybody on yours exploding.
No.
Exploding, probably not, because I have had, like, there's a lesson that comes to mind with Delta, the Shepherd mix, where it was trainer error. I did trigger a snap. She was muzzled, but I was absent-minded, petting her incorrectly as I was talking to the person, misreading the dog, and I got a snap. And then, we addressed that. I was honest about that in the video, and we addressed it throughout the lesson. And by the end of the lesson, we got the dog wagging their tail, playing. We're building trust. The dog was scared of men, or in general. Not that we fixed everything, but boy, we gave that dog a good experience, did some counter conditioning and things.
And I do think it's important for us to be able to explain to people that you're going to make mistakes, but that doesn't mean that, the training is over or that you can't try to reverse some of that. So like people that have used aversive, it doesn't mean like your dog is doomed. Like you can't, luckily our dogs are very malleable and we don't deserve them as humans. We say that all the time because they are just such wonderful creatures. And forgiving. Luckily, yes, they're very forgiving and we can usually be able to try to build that bond back.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the right message.
So with the dogs that you see, because you do all types of training, yes?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say all types of training. There are a lot of dog sports I'm not involved with, but yeah, pet dog training, I would say, or people who are suffering from behavioral issues, everyday people. That's my target audience. Yeah. I come from the sports dog world and did, performed around the country and stuff doing stuff with Chris Parandi. I don't know if you guys know him.
That's very cool. Very cool.
And then I kind of, now I find myself with pet dog trainers. That's a bigger market.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it going on that needs help. Yes.
Yeah.
So from your view as a positive trainer, at the protest on Sunday, we had a group of awesome trainers that were standing out there trying to educate everybody. Everybody was just, there are other ways, there are other things you could do. And one of the ladies, Diane Sawyer from Hearts and Paws here in Austin, had mentioned we just have to do better as positive trainers and get the education out there, and had mentioned that the idea was to throw a demo for a bunch of positive trainers, right?
To get together.
Right. I mean, that would be an amazing thing to happen. So people can actually see you don't have to do the dog whisperer thing, air quotes involved here. You don't have to do the, I'm going to hang your dog until they die. And then the dog's going to be afraid and learn helplessness. And this whole thing, I think, really did open my eyes that I think we do as positive dog trainers need to get a little bit more events going on. Like
Putting us
say.
out there a little bit more.
Awareness events.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yes.
of a campaign like this is public awareness, and that can be done, in person on the ground. It can be done virtually online as well, and that's something I know we've been doing a lot more of in the last couple of years, or at least the last year or so, of really promoting other positive trainers working with, with dogs with modern methods and things like that. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think public awareness, because until public perception changes, it's going to be difficult because the public is deeply confused as to what dog training and behavior modification looks like. And if you're not a behavior expert, I remember before I was a dog trainer, I would have assumed if a dog was aggressive, well, you need to meet aggression with aggression. You better show that dog who's boss, but the beautiful thing about science, and too many people don't appreciate this about science, is the answer is always at least 10 times more interesting than any up here.
Yeah.
You can actually be nice to the dog and resolve aggression issues or improve aggression issues.
Right.
That is so counterintuitive to the public, and it is a difficult thing, but it's as sure as dropping an apple that it will fall, that you can resolve or you can make improvements with aggressive behavior.
And there is the gray area here where there are some dogs that you can manage.
That's
we
right.
definitely see some of the aggressive dogs that we have to tell them, like, this is an aggression you can't fix, but you can manage and maintain it. But it's also about the owners and if they're going to be able to be consistent and be able to do that.
And be safe, so there is a gray matter there.
Yeah, you're not
the aggressive dogs. Yeah.
Appreciate you clarifying that too, because mental illness comes into play. You do have some dogs that are a risk to public safety that are just going to do some really terrible things if they're not appropriately responsibly managed. So yeah, I appreciate the clarification on that for sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of those dogs that we find that reach that level, it was a learned thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they were born that way. It was created.
Right.
Unfortunately.
And so more, you think, like, do you feel like maybe more, rather than it being genetics or mental illness with like extremely aggressive dogs, you see a disproportionate amount of those dogs having learned that behavior and not being
It's very rare that we see genetics play a part in our aggression cases.
So we're a little bit more obsessive about history, where the dog came from, what kind of experiences the dog had in public, right? So aggression, from what we see, does have a learned response. Now that could be the slightest learned response, right? So, if I look at that dog that's across the street and I might drop my nose and stare, well, if I watch Cesar Millan, don't let the dog look at that dog. So I'm going to correct it. So now the dog goes, well, I see that dog, I'm going to get in trouble. So I'm going to make it leave further. I don't want it to get any closer because I'm going to get some type of pain response or negative response. So then they start to develop a little bit more aggression, and it gets a little bit more distant in homes over the pandemic. I'm sure you've seen it, right?
We've seen a lot of uptick since the pandemic.
The dogs are like going, hey, you know what? You're home now, so I can display a little bit more. I have to show you how strong I am, so you can keep me in your pack. And, so we always try to tell people it's from, if you could protect your dogs, right? And if your dogs have faith in you and want to stay with you. And I think that's a big part that's missing in aversion training. They don't want to stay there. They stay there because they're forced. They're trapped, right? So,
yeah.
And your thoughts on that? They're trapped, right? They're not going to have another option.
Right, I agree completely with that. I mean,
like you used to say, inside out, outside in. That reminded me of that.
Yeah, step one of having a dog, building a bond with them. I mean, that's what you. That's at least in my professional opinion, that's the first thing I talk about in my books. Like Bree was saying, it's about trying to bring about behavior from the inside outward rather than from the inside inward. Trying to just jerk a dog around to create behavior. It's a very simple way to look at it. And so, yes, I mean, achieving that bond, really teaching the dog to want to be near you is everything. You do that, and training is much, much easier, and you don't have the problem.
Build that motivation.
Yeah, right. Totally agree.
Yeah. It's pretty intense to see the dogs that we see, but I'm really thrilled, like I said, that you're putting on this grand display against the aversion tactics, because I mean, for us, with the amount of aggression that we do see, and it is, and Laura is right. I mean, everything we see, we can attribute to most of this is learned. There are a few types of aggression that are sociopathic.
Yeah.
You know, but most of what we see, the intent,
It's been created by the human.
the true intent to go forward is success. So they keep going, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting. So yeah, you think, and when you say created by the human, it's I'm assuming for the most part done inadvertently through.
Yes,
correct.
Right,
Yeah.
So,
Most
yeah,
people,
thank you
it's
for
just,
clearing that
yeah.
up, before my listeners could wait.
Most of
You
the
always tell me I didn't do that. But
most
no,
of the time it is. It's a
miscommunication.
they just, yeah, they didn't know. And that's the whole thing. That's why we always call ourselves translators for people. No, we're not a dog whisperer. No, we're not don't have magic dust
Right.
that we can just make your dog better. It's just because we can translate for you what your dog is, why they're doing this behavior, or what they're saying to you, so you can understand your dog, and vice versa.
Right.
Because most people just don't know.
Yeah. Sounds exactly right. I mean, it's true. And then you look at social media and you see where they're getting their information from.
Right.
Like, so I have a top YouTube channel in the category of dog training, but if you look at the next 5 channels that come after us, you know, they're aversive dog training.
Yeah.
So
and that's one of the reasons why we did the podcast. That's why we do a lot of seminars that are all about like learning body language, because I think that's one of the things is most people think when they see those aversion training, they're like, well, the dog is fixed. And it's like, well, if you read their body language,
It's not.
it's not.
And I think today's society. So what do you think about, have you seen a difference in your career? Because I certainly have, but have you seen a difference in your career about the length of time that somebody wants the dog fixed in?
Oh, well, you know, and actually there's a lot to say about that topic. Yes, of course.
Fast.
Yes, they want it fast, but there's this myth out there and this is actually something I'm trying to correct amongst my fellow positive reinforcement trainers, the following sentence. Well, positive reinforcement may take longer, but it's well worth it. I don't think it does take longer, because you're actually fixing the issue rather than masking it. That other thing isn't actually success.
Right.
That's not doing anything other than quelling the dog and suppressing the dog,
problems,
which often create problems. Exactly.
Yeah.
The idea that positive reinforcement takes longer is something I think we as positive trainers have to stop saying as well. When we really get to I'm not saying you guys say that, and if you did, that's okay too.
We don't.
We don't.
Yeah. But you know what I'm talking about. You've heard people say that.
I do. That's why I brought the question up, because I hear it a lot, and it's one of the things that irks me.
Yeah.
No, my training doesn't take longer. My training might hit upon 8 or 9 different types of behavior issues that led to the aggression.
Yeah.
Instead of
quick fix right here that doesn't actually fix it.
That's done. Yeah.
Just a parlor trick.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not urgent care.
We have to actually go in there and fix all the things before we have to get to the root of the problem.
Because that's why I asked.
There's more to it.
It's because I really wanted to hear what your thought process was on that, because we see,
I want the dog fixed yesterday.
We see a lot of people that are going to say, the shock collar fixed it right now.
Right.
But did it really? Or like using the prong collars for leash pulling. Well, now my dog doesn't pull, and it's like, well, yeah, because it hurts.
But if you take the prong collar off, one of our favorite things is, if I take that prong collar off, will it still walk by your side?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Will it pull, or will it actually walk with you now?
And also, like, even where you do, like in the case of a prong collar and it's working while it's on, like you're saying, if you're using these tools properly as directed, meaning that you have to use them forceful enough for the dog to not want to repeat the behavior. What was I going to say about that? I lost my train of thought as I was saying it. This happens all the time.
Sometimes I know where you're going, but I didn't that time. Sorry.
I wanted to finish this point if I can remember it. Or was there a question?
Were we talking about suppression? Doesn't take longer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, come back.
So putting on the prong collar and then you take it off and they don't walk well
Yeah.
after the prong collar's off.
Environmental stimuli that they're now creating. It's like if there happens to be a person walking by or another dog walking by, and you're classically conditioning inadvertently to these other stimuli in the environment,
Right.
that it's incredibly risky to do that to a dog.
Yeah.
And I think like another thing I wanted to get across too is if the public could just learn that there are laws of learning, there are certain truths in psychology that are universal amongst all animals. Like it's like the public thinks, well, humans learn one way and dogs learn another way. When of course, the learning laws are the same for both dogs and people. Never mind the fact that we're both mammals with neocortexes and virtually motive systems. I mean, the laws even apply to grasshoppers who don't have a lot of those things.
Yeah.
But, so that's another thing that I wish people understood, and maybe our education system can help out with that. But
well, and we always say, because, just like kids, they can all learn the same thing, but some of them need to learn it in a different way and approach it in a different way. And it's the same thing with dogs. Like, I can't just have this blanket thing that I just do with every dog and assume it's going to work. Like, there are some dogs that we've had to literally be like, this is going to be your dog's program because we're going to have the foundation of it, but I need to tweak it to fix to address your dog specifically.
And I do think that's important too. Yeah, because some dogs while it might take a little longer to fix, the only reason is because it might have 11 to 14 different types of aggressions that their stimulus is causing aggression, whereas
one that has one or two, they might get through it quicker because they're not dealing with as much.
We are dealing with the whole behavior.
Right.
We're not dealing with just a band-aid. So I'm thrilled to see that you're getting out there and you have a lot of following. I think we need to get a lot more information out there about positive training, and to try to get everybody on the same page with positive training too.
Yeah.
Right. That
it's possible.
Yeah, I mean that's what the goal is. I personally think that for us to see a real change in the industry, that state licensure should be a requirement, and that we need to get to that place to where because it's not a small issue. It's like dogs have teeth, they can bite, they become a public health and safety risk when you're using these methods. Those dogs go in public, they have children in the home. Dog trainers can't be saying, hey, give me a few $100. I'll come in there, yank your dog around, when they're really creating an additional public health and safety risk and misguiding the public. It's truly a danger to the public, which is why we see licensure arise in many fields. I mean, that's why your plumber needs a license, because they can screw up your whole life's work, your investment in your home if they do something wrong, and this different with our dogs.
Yeah, I do. It is really important. I mean, there are so many trainers that pop up. I mean, here in Austin, Texas, I can't even tell you how many trainers are in Austin. And I'm sure you've heard it too with some of your clients where somebody says, well, my friend who's a dog trainer.
Yeah. My friend, my family member, the friend of a friend said to do this.
Somebody can watch a TV show and say, I can now go train a dog, and that's not okay. It's not okay. It is dangerous, super dangerous. We see dogs that have, somebody will use the aversion training. They adopt the dog out, the collars come off, and then they, attack people that are in the house because there's nothing for them to be afraid of. The only reason that they were behaving was because they were terrified for their lives.
Yeah.
And then you take it off and they're like, well, you can't tell me no now because you can't stop me from doing something. And it's not the dog's fault. The dog's not evil.
Yeah.
Right.
It's taught.
It just, no problem was ever fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And like the public isn't even aware of this divide in huge part. Like, when was the last time? I don't know. I know as a dog trainer, it's rare that someone will ask me, if I get some random person that I tell I'm a dog trainer, they don't ask, oh, well, what methods do you use?
Yeah.
They go, oh, well, how do I fix blah, blah, blah? And if I was a trainer, I'd be giving them terrible advice. They would not know it. And that's the confusion I'm talking about, because it is unrealistic to hold the public to the standard of a professional dog trainer. But at the very least, professional dog trainers need to stop exacerbating this issue within the public, which is why I get so deeply offended by it and why I am so loud about it, because it's not a matter of just, oh, well, I look at it differently than you do. That's fine for you as a trainer if you're going to do that. But when you now go and you start advising the public, that's where we have a problem, and that's where I'm going to call you out personally on my platform. There's no room for diplomacy when people are science denying, when they are just giving plain problematic advice to the general public. That's what really gets me going,
Yeah, me too. That's why I left my Sunday to go and do that.
The protest, yeah.
You were one of our really awesome surprise protesters out there, we noticed. And where did they come from? This is great.
We're pretty vocal in Austin, so a majority of people, they hear about us, but they always hear about us from like word of mouth or other people talking about either hearing us at something like this,
or because I'm blunt.
She's not shy.
But I think it's important that we do. There's so many changes that have to happen in the training world. So many changes.
Yeah, awareness is number one. It's step one, and it's a multi-year endeavor, no doubt. I mean, you've been having this conversation for 37 years now, and I've been having it. And it's interesting to see how, as social media goes, it's a double-edged sword. Social media, on one hand, it exemplifies what's terrible about dog training and other issues, and on the other hand, it gives us the opportunity to combat misinformation too. So.
Yeah, it is. Well, Zach, I really appreciate you coming on the show and giving us your time. I know you guys are 3 hours behind us.
Yeah, all the way in Alaska.
On the ground tomorrow. Look at that.
It's snow.
Oh my God. So we're in Texas. We just started getting cooler weather. We've been complaining about the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Just got cooler. And they just said in the news that we're going to get another spout of 90s. And I'm like, so
yay.
Enjoy your snow.
We're jealous.
Yeah, I understand. But yeah, thanks for being on, and happy to do it anytime.
Well, I don't know if you're aware, I just thought I would let you guys know that Dog Daddy announced he's coming back to Austin.
Yeah, so I've already blocked it off on our calendar. So I saw that.
But we put a podcast out there to try to get our community to go to Austin City Council and Austin Animal Advisory Commission, see if we can get them blocked. So we're gonna keep mentioning it every week on our podcast. Because it's really important. And this is a city of dog lovers, so I think if we can get him blocked from coming to Austin, that would be a good show on our positive training base.
There's precedent, we kept him out of Australia, Italy, and the UK, more or less.
Right.
Those were on his schedule, and he didn't go through with those classes he had promised. So
yeah. But if he's here, we'll be there.
Yeah. Yes, I know you guys have a busy schedule here. So
yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
All right, y'all. Thank you again so much. It was a pleasure. And for all of our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this. We were super honored to have Zach and Bree on our show today. And hopefully again in the future, we'll be talking about less than this 15-second TikTok.
We'll be able to go into more things.
Personality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I learned a lot today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Y'all have a great day. And we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
That was fantastic, and we are so excited that we had Zach and Bree on the show. And as always, remember you can like, follow, and subscribe our podcast. If you have any ideas for future podcasts, please give us a shout at info@caninetranslators.com. That's info@caninetranslators.com. Remember to always see your dog and hear your dog in order to help your dog.
And protect first.